5. Miscellaneous notes. Public executions. An interesting comment on capital punishments appears in the life of Churchill by his son. Churchill expressed himself in favour of capital punishment. "Is it a great deterrent?" he asked. "I think so. Perhaps it is because the sentence is irrevocable, because the actual penalty is and must remain unknown." He must have been thinking in the last sentence of a possible afterlife. Referring to the recent substitution of public executions by private executions, he added, "No difficulties should be placed in the way of any, in moderate numbers, who may wish to see the sentence carried out. Justice in every form should not shrink from publicity. The last expiation which she exacts from man should not be hidden from the eyes of his fellow creatures." A few years before he died, Churchill told his grandson Winston that he was still in favour of capital punishment in public, as though he thought that instead of being secretly hanged in a hut, the murderer or traitor ought to be allowed to address a crowd, as in the case of the first Marquess of Montrose. Churchill's comments on public executions have reference to the fact that, in an earlier era, a restraint on injustice and tyranny was the privilege of the condemned man to address the assembled crowd and either take his leave of life and make his peace with God, or indict the tyrant ruler if he were the victim of injustice. The modern tyrant state denies this privilege and keeps execution secret in order to prevent its own indictment. This is not to say that earlier eras did not see denials of the right to make a public statement before death. Thus, during the Reformation era, the French persecution of Protestants was remarkably brutal, burning over a slow fire rather than the usual practice of giving the condemned a bag of gunpowder to hang from their necks for a quick death. Protestants in France were first tortured and then their tongues were cut out before being taken to the stake to prevent them from addressing the spectators. The brutalities of the communist states of today mark these older tyrants as amateurs by comparison. False witness and abiding and abetting crime. According to the law, in cases of perjury, the false witness was to receive the penalty sought for the accused, Deuteronomy chapter 19, verses 16 to 21. If the penalty were death, then the false witness was to be executed. In Christian Europe, this principle was logically extended to have other applications. If a man held a prisoner escape from the jurisdiction of the court or from its sentence, that same sentence was applied to him. An example of this appears in Columbus's crew on his first voyage to America. The ships had good crews of able seamen. Only 4 were pardoned criminals, and here there were mitigating circumstances. Although Bartolomé de Torres had only accidentally killed a man in a fight, he had been sentenced to death for this manslaughter. 3 of his friends had tried to help him escape from prison, but were caught, and also sentenced to death. They were pardoned by the Crown and sent to sea with Columbus, and all received full pardon on their return. 2 of them sailed with Columbus again, on his second voyage. Tithing. A common objection to tithing is that the New Testament supposedly sets a new and voluntary standard whereby men give as they are able. The supposed authority for this is 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 12, and chapter 9, verse 7. But the statement in its original form is in Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 17. "Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given unto thee." The law here does not negate tithing. It is reference to the due proportion of our prosperity as something which is due to the Lord who gives it. Tithes and gifts are basic to both testaments.